every HR manager can figure out basically the health of their employees by the amount of what we call maintenance meds that they take. And the problem is those maintenance meds, we can go deeper into this when we talk other topics on medicine, is that it's a way of addressing the symptoms of a chronic condition.
Hello everyone, we're back with another episode of Breaking the Mould. Today we are very, very excited because we have, in my opinion, one of the best coaches in the Philippines, and his coaching is around nutrition. He is a 4-decade professional executive for companies like Procter & Gamble, Philippines and Australia. He's the first IBPA president and most recently a very senior executive for San Miguel Corporation. Please help me welcome Nutrition Network certified coach, Oca Sañez.
Hello.
Yes!
Hello, Marie. Hello. Hello, everyone. It's great to be here and have this opportunity to be able to share whatever important knowledge I can share for this episode. Great to be here.
And Oca, the topic that we have is why we get fat. And I have tons of questions already, pero gusto kong simulan ito by saying, why are we even talking about it?
Yeah, it's a good question. I kind of framed the title to be about overweight, being fat. But it's certainly not just about that. It's being fat or obese, as we call it sometimes. It's just a symptom of a disease. It's a condition that will affect a person's overall condition, whether it's at work, at play, or by himself or by herself, wanting to do something productive in life, because that can be a liability. That's why focusing on that maybe is a good way of discussing how then can we help individuals and companies improve their productivity and overall results just by getting less fat or actually getting more healthy is what we mean.
Fantastic point. And because you touched upon individual as a family member, isn't it that we're doing this not only for the corporate? Kasi sa corporate, very obvious yung outcome, which is higher productivity for the companies. And in this particular segment, syempre shout out tayo sa company owners, leaders, HR people. Like, what program do you have now that actually espouses our employee workforce to be healthier? And also, we need to give back something to our family then.
Right.
Hindi naman lahat also for the corporations. I love that you said that.
Right.
So should we get to the heart of the matter?
Yeah, definitely. The common denominator here is actually metabolic health, which is a better way of calling a condition where you're not sick, you're not diseased, you don't have the symptoms and evidence for a sick person. Obesity and being overweight is one of them. The other things that are part of metabolic unhealthy level is things like hypertension, high blood pressure, things like diabetes, which is high blood sugar, high insulin, things like heart conditions, cardiovascular disease. These are just some symptoms, including being overweight, for a condition where you're in a metabolic syndrome, which is the opposite of metabolic health. And that goes back to your way of eating, nutrition, and that's probably where you want to start.
Exactly. And before I go there, can I ask, namamana ba ang pagiging obese or to be on the heavier side?
It's a good question. A lot of people justify their being overweight as, well, my parents are overweight, or I come from a big family, big meaning A size, triple A size family. There's partly some influence from your genes, but that's very small. What's actually affecting your being overweight or being lean is your lifestyle. Your lifestyle is pretty much inclusive of what you eat, how you spend your day in terms of your activity. You get out in the sun or you stay in front of the TV all day. Those put together will equate to your condition.
Perfect. I like doing this with Oka. Can we debunk one or two myths that are commonly used by the Filipino public or sa mga household about being fat? Can you share one or two?
Okay, I'll start with calories. When we talk about nutrition, the mainstream discussion is always about calories. calories do matter, but it's not just the calories that make you fat. In fact, it is not the fat that you eat that make you fat.
It's not the fat that you eat that makes one fat.
Yep, exactly. We need to kind of unbundle that a little
We
bit.
will.
Yeah.
And talking about fat, people have been, like me in our earlier discussion, there was a point in time in my life where I was told I need to avoid fatty food. But here you are, one day in our conversation, you're telling me I should not avoid fatty food.
Yeah, that's pretty much common from what I hear from my clients, from all my conference talks. The old myth has always been avoid fat, avoid cholesterol, but that's because of years of believing in statements from authorities, from government that lack scientific evidence. But a lot of that has been disproven over the past couple of decades. A lot of the research had been presented to the public showing that it is not about fat. In fact, the World Health Organization in 2015 declared that cholesterol is not a nutrient of concern. You can search that. Because if you look at the macronutrients, a lot of our audience, I'm sure, understand that the three main macronutrients are carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. Basically, the big macros from what you eat. You need fats, you need essential fats. There are things that are called essential fatty acids. Otherwise, you will die if you don't eat them. There's essential amino acids, which are proteins. You need that as your building blocks for your tissues. But there are no essential carbohydrates. There are no essential starches. Carbohydrates are there as part of our food groups as a source of energy. But fats can also be a source of energy. In fact, research in the science can prove that fats are actually a cleaner fuel.
Fats are cleaner fuel.
Exactly.
I needed to repeat that.
Saturated fats especially. Things like coconut oil and beef tallow, beef fats. But carbohydrates also fuel that all of us are used to because sometimes we, as early as 6 months old, we're introduced already to a lot of starchy food, and then you grow up with it, are less clean as a fuel than fats. In fact, if you eat a lot of carbohydrates and starchy foods and you overload a big part of the day with carbohydrates and starchy food, there are a lot of what we call byproducts coming out of an overwhelming diet of carbohydrates, which are also called free radicals, and they can damage your arteries. And the other part is, the other sad part of having too much carbohydrates is any excess, because the body regulates your blood sugar very tightly. Any excess will spike insulin coming from your pancreas to remove the excess blood sugar because the body knows it's toxic. And what does the body do with that? The liver processes them, changes them into triglycerides, which is really a fat form, and stores them in different parts of your body. And parts that you don't like to be heavy in fats. But that's the reality of it. The excess sugars removed by your insulin are moved into fat storage. It is a fact.
So now I'm like, my head is spinning with a lot of this information. But in the workplace, where not too many of the organizations have like a healthy cafeteria or pantry for their employees, syempre they gravitate towards whatever is available.
Yeah,
right?
Understand.
But if you are to intentionally put something in your body that you can prepare at home, are there really easy peasy way of converting from what you were used to? And of course, I understand that it will take a lot of discipline now.
Yeah.
But I'm just talking to the employees who said, parang ang tough naman ng conversation na to. Like, how do I change in my way of living if whatever is in my pantry at home and in the office does not suit the healthy standards that I should be, what you're saying right now?
Sure.
What are the quick fixes on that?
Well, we're so much used to starting the day with very starchy meals. We don't have to. Because as I mentioned, the starchy meals will spike sugar, spike insulin. Start of the day pa lang, you already have this condition where your blood sugar is very high. What happens with the high blood sugar level and high insulin level is that you will crash after a couple of hours because the body's trying to eliminate that sugar. And it does so at the same time creating hunger pangs because your sugar drops in a couple of hours, then you're hungry again.
Correct.
What happens? You grab a chocolate bar or a donut
Yeah.
or a cinnamon roll, and that spikes that sugar again. And you go to that cycle all day. So you have basically most part of the day in a high sugar, high insulin level, which is what you want to avoid because you don't want to get fat, right? So start of the day pa lang, start with a high protein meal instead of a starchy meal. And there you can go for
Let's
eggs.
give an example.
You can go for boiled eggs or fried eggs. You can go for meats like bacon and the tapa in the top C. Just avoid the sinangag. But instead of having that sinangag, maybe you can have vegetables. So you can have cauliflower rice and things like those. And then we can bring as baon. You can bring some eggs and some meats.
What about fruits
or
Oca,
corned
to
beef.
start your day? Is that
Yeah, fruits are okay too. Just avoid very sweet fruits. Avocados are perfect, for example. It's hardly any sugar there. It's mostly healthy fats. Avocados are great for snacks as well. You can go for dairy, like milk and yogurt, cheese, real cheese. They're all high fat and high protein and all healthy. So if you start with a high protein meal, you will have a higher level of success that for the rest of the day, you will probably not crash, not experience that coasting and the bloated feeling because of a starchy meal. Every time you eat something sugary, starchy, you know that you're not helping your body with the nutrients that your body needs.
Ayan, that's why we're being very granular about the examples we're giving kasi we want them to really imagine how that lifestyle would be. And all the things you mentioned just now, Oka, are all available, and there's nothing so special about those products that you just mentioned. With the exception siguro of the cauliflower rice, but even that is very much available in our supermarkets too.
That's right. And you can make it too.
Right.
Yeah, it's so easy to make. Yeah.
If I were a family member and or a member of leadership or in HR, what should I look for as the signs of an employee or a family member that's bordering on obesity?
You can tell by how much maintenance meds they consume. And every HR manager can figure out basically the health of their employees by, I'm sure they have the data, by the amount of what we call maintenance meds that they take. And the problem is those maintenance meds, we can go deeper into this when we talk other topics on medicine, is that it's a way of addressing the symptoms of chronic condition. Right? We talked about metabolic syndrome kanina. Metabolic syndrome, the opposite of metabolic health is when you have hypertension, you have high blood sugar, high insulin, expanding waistline. Those things can be addressed by some medicine, but they only address the symptoms.
Correct.
They don't go for the root cause of why you have hypertension, why do you have diabetes. You get into these conditions because of food. As my professor always says, you eat your way into a diabetes. And that's why you can also eat your way out of it. That's the only way. That's the only cure. No meds, no medicine will fix diabetes.
I love it. I'm sorry to parrot you on this one, but I need to say it so that our audience can catch it, that you can eat your way into diabetes just as you can eat your way out of it.
That's right. Said it right.
Wow. So another thing that I am very conscious and aware of that people are doing nowadays, I don't think it's just because it's faddish. Obviously, it has its nutritional value, no? Going for fasting. Fasting has been a practice. Is it good to fast?
Excellent question. Fasting is getting to be very popular these days, especially with the young people as a way of biohacking to optimal health. I think the principle that we need to understand, at least for the audience to really understand, is the idea that insulin as a hormone plays a very important role in all of this. I talked about spiking blood sugar, and then after that, insulin spikes because it tries to remove the excess sugar in your blood. And therefore, insulin is your friend. But insulin can be your friend only if you allow it to work. If you overload with a lot of sugar all day, insulin will become overworked, and after a while, you get into a condition called insulin resistance. In other words, your cells are not anymore listening to the action of insulin to remove the sugar, so you're perpetually in a high insulin level mode or high sugar mode, which is toxic. You don't want those in your blood all the time. Now, understanding that principle means that the ideal is to have a low insulin condition.
Right.
for the most part of the day, or in the evening when you're sleeping, it's probably low, but you want low insulin all the time so
Right.
that you become sensitive to it. You don't get that toxic condition of high insulin situation in your arterial walls and all that. Fasting is one way to maintain a low level of insulin, okay? And that's why it works for a lot of people, because the more hours you're in low insulin mode, then the less your fat building mode will be. Because for as long as there's insulin in your blood, you will not break down the fat in your body. No way. For as long as there's insulin in your blood. Now, you can do it the wrong way as well, because if you break your fast the wrong way, like I didn't eat for like 18 hours, I'm so hungry, I'm going to grab a box of Dunkin' Donuts. That is a little bit dangerous because you really spike everything. So the way you break your fast should be on a at least high fat or high protein first meal, so that you don't jar your system the wrong way. You can read more about insulin and fasting. You can listen to Dr. Jason Fung, for example. He's one of the pioneers in developing that method, that technique for improving your condition. So short answer to that is it helps, but you have to do it the right way. Be guided.
Be guided. Ganda. So fasting really works. But as you mentioned, if they rewind this particular episode and they go back to what you said, when you break your fast, kailangan tama din, no?
Right.
Yung food the food intake.
Exactly.
Because that's responsible fasting, if I can call
Right.
it that. What about yung maraming conversation about the calories, the intake of calories per day? Yan ba ay talagang effective? Talaga bang, is it like 1,800 calories ba? And I think you can debunk that paradigm, confirm it as well.
Yeah, that's another thing we need to debunk, because it's not about calories in and calories out. Okay, calories only a measure of heat, scientific way of measuring the innate heat potential energy of a food item. So we use that heat for energy. That's the only thing that is used for. Now, you can increase your weight by eating too much in terms of calories, and you can reduce your weight by eating less calories, but it's not as simple as that. It is about what you eat rather than the calories in what you eat, because food basically is information. When you eat something, that food has data in there, okay? That's the way of thinking about it. When you take it in, the body is not just an engine that spews in energy and spews it out. We are a biochemical system. So when the body takes in like a slab of meat, which is basically protein and fat, it is read by the body. So the protein will be broken down into amino acids. It will go to the tissues to rebuild the tissues. If you have a wound, it will fix the wound. If you're lifting weights, it will add more tissues to your muscles. When fat is taken in, it's taken in very quickly because it helps digest the meat. It helps with building your hormones, your vitamin D, a lot of your systems are built by fats, especially saturated fats. And carbohydrates will be read as an energy source. Now, if you're going to run a marathon, maybe you will need that energy.
Right.
But if you will just watch TV after eating and eat more popcorn and chips the rest of the day, you will have an overload of carbohydrates, which is why I said it's not just about the calories. The body will need to do something with what you ate, and those carbs will be stored as fat because you're not going to burn it. So minimize those carbs and starches and prioritize your protein and fats because you need them. The body needs them. There are essential fats and there are essential amino acids.
And now, the million-dollar question, why we get fat? So, if we are to be, happy ako that you were very granular with your responses and it is scientific and we explained it in layman's language. That is, I'm sure, appreciated by our audience. Pero when it boils down to the question of why we get fat, let's go to the essence of what are the food that needs to be avoided. Kanina we started with saying, okay, how do you start your day?
Sure.
For breakfast. Pero ito talagang ibigay na natin sa kanila, Oca. What should they avoid?
Okay, give it to them.
Give it to them.
Okay, number one, avoid carbohydrates, sugars, starchy foods. They will not help you get to the optimal health that you need. Scientifically, There is really no need for dietary carbohydrates in your food. Your body needs some glucose, but your body can readily make them from the proteins and fats that you eat.
Correct.
There's no chemical action in your body that will require that you eat carbohydrates. That will only make you fat, make you less healthy. Number two, prioritize proteins and fats. Particularly, I'm talking about real food sources for protein and fat. So enjoy your chicken, enjoy your beef, enjoy your dairy, enjoy your eggs, the butter, and all the delicious saturated fats like coconut oil. A combination of good quality protein and saturated fats will be very healthy. You need some omega-3 fatty acids as well, fats from fish, fish oil and fatty fish. Those are very healthy. Dairy fats are very healthy. So eliminate starch and sugars. They will only make you sick. Prioritize proteins and fats. And number three, avoid those artificial oils, industrial oils. Those are the modern oils that you see in the supermarkets and the groceries. These are industrial oils like canola, corn oil, soybean oil. Those are modern oils. Those are not natural oils from ancestral diets.
Right.
Go for the real oils like coconut oil and beef tallow and butter and lard, avocado oil and olive oil. Those are the healthy fats. Avoid the artificial. The modern fats will basically make your cells brittle, the cellular membrane brittle, and will contribute to higher free radicals, making you more fat and more sick. And finally, sleep is very important. A good amount of sleep, good 6-7 hours or even 8 hours, and nature exposure. Get a good amount of sunlight if you can, whether it's morning, noon, or evening, or late or dawn. Exposure to nature, including grounding, deep breathing, and meditation, will improve the balance of your autonomic nervous system, especially in our very stressed life, whether it's work stress or family stress or whatever, love stress. You need to be able to balance that with nature, relaxation, and meditation so you have a more resilient body. Avoid getting sick, getting infected by whatever virus or bacteria are out there. So that will strengthen your body condition.
While you were talking, I can imagine people like going like this and say, I'm sure like there are things in what you said that are super normal in their lifestyle, in their pantry, in their cafeteria.
Yeah.
And so now you gave it to them, those 4 big factors that really affect why they get fat. And those guidance are really, really very crucial and important. Wow, Oca, this has been one amazing episode. In fact, I feel very strongly that we will have more episodes on health because I want our corporate leaders and HR folks to design programs that are around. Kung may financial scorecard or business scorecard, I want to encourage them to come up with a health scorecard for the employees.
Yep.
And this could be one way, I hope, that they can pick up from what you mentioned today, list them down, and come up with inspiring and innovative programs that could change the way their employees and the family members' health would look like.
Definitely.
All right.
Yeah.
So with that said, this has been a very interesting, one of the shortest, but I want more, and we will have more of Oca Sañez. Again, thank you so much, Oca, for being here with us. We'll see you.
My pleasure. Yep. Look forward to that.
All right. Thank you so much.